You know, US federal elections are so predictable. As a history major, I can attest to this.
Well, hold on. As a psychology major, I believe we need to test this.
In light of the most recent US federal election, we decided to analyze American voting patterns. With history, we could look at the American political culture in the past, and with psychology, we could look at statistics and the social implications behind them.
We are also interested in teaching in higher education, so we're trying to look for a real-life example that our peers can relate to. Since football is reasonably big in Windsor, and since our supervising professor, Dr. Cramer, is also a big Miami Dolphins fan, we tried to see if football can somehow relate to the US presidential election outcomes.
Specifically, we are testing the so-called Redskins rule. According to this rule, if the Washington Redskins win their most recent home game prior to the election, then the incumbent should win the presidential race. There are multiple cases where this is true. In 1984, Ronald Reagan was re-elected and the Washington Redskins won their most recent home game prior to the election. However, we did find cases where this was not true. In the most recent election, Hillary Clinton should have won because the Washington Redskins won their most recent home game, yet she still lost to Donald Trump.
So while we were working on our project, we also learned a couple useful lessons about teaching statistics. For example, we were reminded that correlation is not causation. So that means that if we have two things that are associated with each other, the one does not necessarily have to cause the other. The next thing that we were reminded of was that if we have a real-life phenomenon, like the Redskins rule, it does not necessarily mean that it has an underlying cause. So for us as researchers, it means that we have to form hypotheses and collect data, and then we can come up with an explanation.